What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. I wanted to bring you guys the popular yearly segment that I do on this channel where I predict who the Steelers are going to keep on their roster and which guys on the bubble they're going to cut. I love to kind of break down after the preseason games who has done enough to stay on the team, who fits where and why. So position by position now, I'm going to tell you guys who who I think they're going to keep, who maybe they should keep, and who they're going to cut. So kind of just my little prediction here on who the final roster is going to be. The final roster cut down day is tomorrow. They have to have their roster in by Tuesday. I'm recording this on Monday. As of this morning, they have made 6 roster cuts already. So as of this recording, the only notable cut on that roster is Daijun Edwards, the undrafted free agent out of Georgia, the running back, who I wish had gotten more carries. I said in my last video in the last game that I think he made the most out of his opportunities, and I was hoping he'd wind up being, at the very least, a practice squad guy. Hopefully he winds up landing somewhere and doing well. I think Daijun Edwards has a ton of potential, and I was hoping he could be somebody we could have stashed for the future. But he's been cut, along with 5 others. But there is still a bunch of guys on this roster, so I'm going to go ahead and break down by position who's all going to be on this roster. Starting on the offense, starting with quarterback, I think this one is kind of chalk. It's kind of obvious. Russell Wilson is your starter, Justin Fields is your number 2, and Kyle Allen's your number 3. Those are your 3 main quarterbacks. I think John Reese Plumlee has got a chance to be on the practice squad. He's shown some potential, but he's not going to make the roster on the active game days. Running backs, I'm going with 3 here as well. That is also kind of chalk. Najee Harris being the 1, Jaylen Warren being the 2, Cordell Patterson being the 3. There's a chance that they're going to consider this 4 guys being kept if they decide to list Connor Hayward as a fullback. I don't think the other fullback is going to make it. But if they do want to list Connor Hayward as a fullback to try and keep Michael Pruitt, that gives you an opportunity to put 4 guys in the running back column, and the 3 tight ends can include Pruitt instead of including Connor Hayward as a tight end. I'm listing Connor Hayward as a tight end on my roster, so running backs, I have Najee, Warren, and Patterson, just 3. Wide receivers, I have 6. They have sometimes kept 6, sometimes kept 5, and I think even once a few years ago kept 7. So I've got 6 on this roster right now. That is George Pickens being the 1, Van Jefferson being the 2, Calvin Austin being the 3, Roman Wilson being the 4 but is currently injured, Scotty Miller being the backup slot guy, and Dez Fitzpatrick being the 6. If you watch my other video, and actually the last 2 preseason reviews, I have said that I think Dez Fitzpatrick, the longtime Steeler practice squad guy and journeyman, has done more than Quez Watkins. Coming in, I was excited to see what Quez Watkins could do. He didn't really do enough until the last preseason game. So I've got Dez Fitzpatrick being the 6 on this roster, and Scotty Miller being the first kind of big name, or at least NFL known name, to be cut from this roster. But I think he's going to wind up landing somewhere. He's got a lot of speed, and he's got, inconsistent hands, but he can make some good catches. So I think Scotty and Dez round out the wide receivers in this group. Tight ends, I've got 3. Like I said, I'm keeping Connor Hayward listed as tight end here. So Freiermuth being the 1, Darnell Washington being the 2, and Connor Hayward being the 3. Like I said, if they want to list Hayward as being a fullback and they want to keep Michael Pruitt, that makes sense. On my roster, I've got Hayward as the 3rd tight end and Pruitt being a notable cut name on this list. Offensive linemen, I've currently got 8 guys listed here to make the 53. Troy Fautanu, Broderick Jones, Zach Frazier, Isaac Seumalo, and James Daniels are your starters. Your bench are Dan Moore, Spencer Anderson, Mason McCormick. So 5 starters and 3 bench. I also had listed initially someone else. We're going to need somebody else out there right now because with Nate Herbig's injury, he's going to make the roster, but he's going to be on the PUP list. He's going to be on, or actually the IR, because he's missing the entire season. So Nate Herbig will stay on the roster, but he's not going to count against the 53 being on the IR. That being said, he's out for the year, and Troy Fautanu is a little banged up. So we don't really have a clear backup center or really a backup tackle. Dan Moore can start for Fautanu until he's healthy, but you're then kind of thin at tackle, and then there's no clear backup to Zach Frazier at center. So there's a chance if you wanted to, you could put James Daniels in at center. He's got center experience in Chicago, and put Mason McCormick in James Daniels' spot. But then you've got somebody who's more used to playing guard suddenly playing center with 3 rookies in Fatanu, Frazier, and McCormick all in there around him. So the offensive line situation is looking very thin and very insecure right now, especially after the first 2 games started very, very badly for us. So the offensive line, I've got the 8 guys we have here to stay. I don't think they're going to keep like Ryan McCollum or anyone like that. Nothing against him, but I don't see him being the backup center on this roster. I think they might need to go after somebody else. Currently listed at 8, but I think they might need a 9th guy to come in, bring somebody off the street, a free agent or somebody in, or make a trade or something to bring somebody else in because the line is looking a little frail right now. That's the biggest concern for me right now on this offense. Moving over to defense, I've got 7 defensive linemen on this roster. Braden Fehoko is, I think, injured for the year, so he's going to be on the roster but not count against the roster hit. So we're not counting Braden Fehoko, who didn't really play in preseason. I think he got hurt in practice or in the first game. The 7 defensive linemen I have making the team on the line. The starters are Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, and Keanu Benton. The 4 backups I have are DeMarvin Leal, Dean Lowry, Isaiah Loudermilk, and Montravius Adams. So Montravius Adams will back up Keanu Benton, and Lowry, Leal, and Loudermilk will play the outside or the defensive linemen on the ends, and then of course Leal can also play a little bit of outside linebacker as well, like he did successfully in preseason. Those are my 7 guys. Notably off the list is Logan Lee. He was a 6th or 7th round draft pick this year. Had some potential coming in, but didn't really do much. Had a decent second game. Played a little bit in game 2. Played pretty well. I don't know if he's banged up or just didn't play in the 3rd game, but he didn't get a lot of opportunity to shine late in the preseason. I think Logan Lee is probably off this roster. Moving over to outside linebacker, I've got 4 here. The obvious 3, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, are your starters. Nick Herbig is your 3rd guy, who's going to get a lot of time probably on Highsmith's side. He's going to be your relief guy. Those 3 guys are obvious. The 4th guy was hard to choose. I chose Jacoby Windman out there. They could also put Leal at outside linebacker and keep somebody else on the line and use him in 2 spots for positional flexibility. But I've got Jacoby Windman making the roster here. This was a 4-man race between Windman, Welshkoff, Kyron Johnson, and Jeremiah Moon. All 4 of those guys played pretty well in preseason, made some plays. I think Moon got hurt. I have Welshkoff as a protected guy. He's a German import. He played another sport and came over through like a next in line program to the NFL. So I think Julius Welshkoff is a protected guy on our practice squad, which is why I think we keep somebody else as the starter because we can still keep Welshkoff. He played very good with 2 sacks in that last game, but I think Jacoby Windman did enough consistently in all 3 games to be our 4th outside linebacker. I like him there. But really, any of those 4 guys, I have interest in seeing them grow, and I hope the other guys either go to our practice squad or go somewhere else. Inside linebacker is pretty interesting here. I have 5 guys kept plus 1 on the PUP list. Cole Holcomb is not going to count. He's going to be kept, obviously. Really talented veteran with, when he's healthy, just tackling machine, fast, solid cover guy, very good in the run game, good leader, but he's consistently hurt. He got injured last year, is going to be out for at least half this season, if not more, so we're going to keep him. But on the PUP list, I have us keeping 5 other inside linebackers. That is the starters, Patrick Queen and Landon Roberts. Peyton Wilson, the very impressive rookie who got dinged up in the preseason. Hopefully he's not going to miss much time because I want to see him play a lot of relief and pass coverage and run around the field, make tackles. Mark Robinson had a very impressive preseason, a lot of tackles, really good in the run game, good when he commits to a certain lane and sticks to it. And then Tyler Medikevich, special teams guy, veteran guy, knows the system, can make tackles in special teams, can play occasionally in the run game when he has to. So I think those 5 guys are going to be on the roster until Holcomb comes back. Once Holcomb comes back, that alleviates some pressure and might take out Medikevich. But I think those 5 guys stay inside while Holcomb is injured. Cornerbacks, I have 6 right now, but I'm also not entirely sure because we might need somebody else to come in. Just like the offensive line, this to me is the biggest place on defense. We could use somebody. JPJ, Joey Porter Jr., and Dante Jackson are your 2 outside starters. Cam Sutton will be your inside starter when he is playing, but he's suspended for 8 games due to some off-season conduct pending litigations and all that. So Cam Sutton clearly is your really good number 3, great slot corner, knows the system, made a few INTs in preseason, but he's facing half the season off because of his off-field conduct. So needing another guy in the slot. I have us keeping Beanie Bishop as our current starting slot guy, but I don't love that. Anthony Averett, I had said he was going to be the starting slot guy. Didn't realize he was cut before the third preseason game. I thought because he wasn't on the field, that ensured that he was going to be the guy. I'm glad he's not. I don't like the way he played in preseason. Apparently he was cut just before the third game on August 20th. I didn't realize that, so I apologize. So Anthony Averett is gone, and Cam Sutton is staying but not playing for half the season, which by default makes Beanie Bishop our third slot corner, our starting slot, unless we decide to bring Deshaun Elliott down and play him in the slot with the other 2 guys playing safety. So Deshaun Elliott and Beanie Bishop may split time there. But as far as the roster goes, JPJ, Dante Jackson, Cam Sutton, Beanie Bishop, who didn't play well in preseason. Played great in camp, looked really good, made some plays. Did not overly impress me in preseason by any means. Bad first game and nothing much the second game and nothing much the third game. So that slot corner, unless Deshaun Elliott can do it, is a little bit up in the air, and I think somebody else could come in. The 2 backup outside guys that I have on this roster are Corey Trice and Darius Rush. Trice, I think, is guaranteed to make it. Trice and Rush did not play enough in preseason. I wanted to see more of those guys. I wanted those guys getting 3 quarters, playing from the second all the way through the fourth. I wanted to see those guys get a lot of time to show what they can do. Trice coming off an injury in his rookie season after a great camp. And then Darius Rush being a mid-round draft pick with a lot of potential and a lot of speed. Played pretty well here in relief toward the end of last season, but didn't play a ton. And then just didn't get a lot of chance in the preseason. Was out of position on one play toward the goal line, but the guy didn't make the catch, and he caught up fast. And then he did knock down a play in the end zone in the second game. Played okay in game 2. Didn't get to play much in game 3, and I'm very surprised because we're trying to figure out what our backups are going to look like. Aside from JPJ and Jackson being clear starters and Sutton being the clear third guy later on in the season, we don't have a ton of security back there. Trice definitely makes the roster for sure. Those 5 guys I think are locks. Trice, Bishop, and the 3 other guys are locks. Rush is not a lock. Rush may be cut. He's the one guy I'm going to keep just to keep 6 guys on this roster. But if they were to cut Rush to bring in somebody else, either on the outside or the inside to make us more secure, I think that would be a much needed upgrade. So I like Rush, but I think he might be cut. I'm going to keep him on my roster for now. 5 safeties here. Taking 5 safeties. Minka Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott, DeMonte KZ. Those guys are all locks, obviously. Again, you could put Minka and KZ as your starting safeties and bring Elliott down to blitz and play the edge or play the slot corner. Or you could put Elliott with KZ back there and let Minka blitz or vice versa. Those 3 guys are all diverse and can do multiple things. They are all veterans who you trust. So those 3 guys are locks. Miles Killebrew got a pick in the preseason. He is one of the best special teams guys in the entire league. He is our special teams ace. He is a guaranteed lock for this roster. The 5th guy I'm keeping on good faith is Ryan Watts. He got drafted at corner. I think played a little corner in the preseason. Because of his build and his kind of coverage ability and his hitting ability, I think he's more of a safety. He did get injured at the end of the 3rd preseason game. We don't necessarily know what that was yet. It looked really bad at first. He was laying on the field. Eventually got up and walked off on his own power, but we have not gotten a diagnosis or a prognosis for his health right now. He, again, he's not really a cover guy. He's raw, but he's got such a natural power and a frame. He's an athlete. He's big. He's a hitter. He's a short tackler. He was diagnosing some run plays. He was diagnosing some screen plays. I like Ryan Watts this preseason. He played far better than I expected. And as long as he's not injured for a significant amount of time and he's not going to miss an appreciable amount of time, he could definitely be a special teams safety for us and kind of be a corner safety hybrid that makes tackles on special teams and comes in on clear rushing plays. So Ryan Watts is my 5th safety on this roster. And then special teams, obvious here, Chris Boswell, kicker. Cameron Johnston looked very good in preseason. He's our punter. And then Christian Kuntz, our long snapper, makes the team every year. So that's my 53. Who do you think I put on this roster that's not going to make it? Who do you think I left out that's going to make it? And what do you do about this 2 spots that I was talking about? Offensive line and slot corner. Do you trust KZ enough? Do you trust the rookies enough on the line? Or not KZ, I'm sorry. Do you trust Beanie Bishop enough? And then offensive line, do you trust the rookies enough, or do you bring somebody in for the line or for the corner spots? What do you think of my list? And give me yours in the comments down below. And please like, share, and subscribe. These Steeler deep dives, I will come back to you guys at some point this week with the Steeler cuts and potentially preview the Steelers' first regular season game, and obviously bring you guys Steeler reviews as long as my phone allows and as long as you guys want them all season long. Go Steelers.